What's happening? What's happening? I'm back. Did you miss me? Of course you missed me, man. Class is officially in session, baby. If you're looking at this face and listening to this voice, you are tuned in to the best kept secret on YouTube. I'm smoking. You are officially on the hot seat. What do we do on the hot seat? We set somebody's ass on fire. Who are we setting on fire today? We're going to bring back a reoccurring guest to the show. It's going to be Florida State. We're going to discuss Florida State's head coaching search. And I don't want to waste any time because I know, hey, you come for the gospel, and I'm here to give it to you. So paying homage to the ghost to my left and my right, man, let's go ahead and dive into it. Florida State is in the process of vetting some coaches. They're in the process. It looks like here shortly, probably by the end of the week, we're going to have a head coach at Florida State. I'm not going to waste any goddamn time talking about playing Florida. Florida State goes to their trash-ass stadium in Gainesville, smell them piss-ass fans and all of the other shit. I'm not going to waste no time talking about that. This coaching search. Shit. It's been pretty bad. Only been pretty bad because of how it's been handled. The reality of all of this is, before I get to that piece of it, let me say this. It is paramount that Florida State don't fuck this up. Welcome to another episode of Don't Fuck This Up. It is incredibly imperative that Florida State don't fuck this up. Jimbo ran the program into the ground. Willie Taggart wasn't given enough time to fix it. And it's gotten even worse. So the person you bring in here, that motherfucker got his work cut out for him. It's a lot wrong at Florida State right now. And even more so than when Willie Taggart got here, because at the very least, the cupboard wasn't bare. There were some holes, some glaring holes. There were some issues. But the cupboard wasn't bare. There was still talent. Talent is starting to dwindle in Tallahassee. So at least Willie Taggart had something to work with, which was probably his downfall when you think about it, because he had never seen this amount of talent accumulated at any stop he had been at. And he kind of oversold the program. Had he understood and curbed some of these expectations, might even still be there. That's neither here nor there. It's a conversation for another day. The coach coming in, you're not working with a lot. Florida State's best players more than likely will be leaving. Cam Akers, Marvin Wilson, probably Tamarian Terry, I'm not exactly sure. And then there are still other holes that have been created since Willie Taggart has got there, right? Like when Willie Taggart got there, again, I spoke of the holes that were there. There are even more holes there now. So not only is this person going to be paid to, I guess you would say, fix some of the issues as it relates to culture that Willie Taggart was on the road to fixing, but he's going to have to, like I said last time we were here, this is a rebuild. This is a full rebuild. The only thing about rebuilding in college sports, you can't necessarily just tear it down the way you would like to and rebuild from the ground up. You kind of have to rebuild what's already in place. So that person will be tasked with rebuilding the program using house money. He's going to have to go in there, rebuild the program what's already there, and have an infusion of guys that he wants to fit his standards, his systems, things of that nature, right? The Florida State tradition needs to be carried on in a manner in which we need players who are going to come in and perform on and off the field, which Florida State hasn't had in a number of years. So before I get into the candidates and things of that nature, understand that this person has a monumental task ahead of them. Now, being that the brand is still the brand, or at least we think it's still the brand, it shouldn't be as hard as some of the pundits are making it out to be. But I will tell you this. This person's margin of error is that wide. The administration has already told you it's that wide. They fired Willie Taggart a season and a half into his tenure at Florida State. And I told you my issue with that was you were making it seem like this is an overnight fix. It's not. But let's go ahead and move on. It's a clusterfuck. It's a clusterfuck because of how this is being handled and what are you left to play with. So at the very beginning, Bob Stoops was said to be the lead candidate, right? Fans got an uproar. They became impatient. They wanted Bob Stoops. Problem is, Bob Stoops is currently employed in the XFL with the Dallas Renegades, right? There was some chatter. Bob Stoops agreed. Then Bob Stoops backed out at the 12th hour, the 11th hour, whatever fuck hour it was, he backed out. So then comes in the conversation of the other coaches who were going to be interviewed anyway. You're looking at this motherfucking... Why the fuck does Mark Stoops' name keep popping up? Like, shit. Why fire Willie Taggart and hire his ass again? Anyway, his name keep popping up. You want to know how far Florida State has fallen? Matt Campbell, head coach at Iowa State, has been rumored to be intrigued by the job, right? And he said he'll interview, but he'll only interview at the end of the season because he doesn't want to disrespect what he has going on at Iowa State right now. It's commendable. I got no problem with that. But think about this. Florida State, arguably a top 7 job in the country, right? How far have we fallen for Matt Campbell to tell us when he'll interview for the job? Think about that shit. Who the fuck are you to tell Florida State when you're going to interview for the job? When I read that, I don't know how true it is or how true it isn't, but when I read it, it just made me pause for a second like, God damn. Since when does a coach like Matt Campbell dictate to Florida State? Like, who the fuck are you? And be honest with you, he's not one of my people of interest any goddamn way. Not personally. We can get into a little bit of that later on, but not personally. We got PJ Fleck, signed a new contract. He wasn't the guy any motherfucking way. And you know what? I'm going to tell you what's weird. There are people who are clamoring for PJ Fleck to not only be a candidate for somebody to be a serious candidate, but for somebody to come in and interview and be given a serious shot. I don't see how you like PJ Fleck and didn't like Willie Taggart. They're the same goddamn person. Look at PJ Fleck's record. First season, you sucked ass. Second season, 76. And truth be told, regardless of whether Willie Taggart got fired or not, Florida State was probably going to finish 7-6, right? Then you look at what he's doing this year, which is the trajectory that we hoped Willie Taggart would have going into the third season. We'll never fucking know because he was fired prematurely. But at the same token, how can you look at Fleck's resume and want him so badly and have a really disdain for Willie Taggart? I don't understand that shit. They are literally the same fucking person. What he's done at Florida State would probably mirror what Willie Taggart had done as it relates to record. And let's be clear, Minnesota wasn't left as bad as what Willie Taggart received because of Jimbo. Jared Keel is a good coach. Minnesota was a decent program when he got there. For what it's worth, it was a decent program. He's just taking it to new heights it hadn't seen in a very long time. He didn't have to deal with what Willie Taggart had to deal with. But at the same token, on just resumes, they're the same fucking coach. But you got a PJ Fleck who signed a new contract in Minnesota. He's probably not coming great. This Mike Norvell shit. Some people think Mike Norvell is a really good coach. I think he's decent. I don't think he's a Florida State caliber head coach. At least not now. Because Florida State needs to hit a home run. Florida State can't do shit with a Mike Norvell. Florida State can't do shit with a Mark Stoops. Florida State can't do shit with a PJ Fleck. Florida State can't do shit with a Matt Campbell. And if we're talking about what you were coming in dealing with, you have to come in and literally rebuild a program. Justin Fuente had Memphis looking down good before he left and went to Virginia Tech. All Mike Norvell was told was not to fuck this up. The reason why a lot of people on the Matt Campbell train is because he's won at Iowa State when it was nearly impossible to do so. I'm not disputing that. Now on the surface, 8-5 is good for an Iowa State program in the Big 12, whatever. That's still mediocre. Florida State can't hire a mediocre coach at this moment. They fucking can't. They need somebody who has proven to come in and rebuild. The job calls for a specific coach. not a good coach. Okay? Let me repeat that. This job calls for a specific type of coach, not necessarily a good coach, because all the guys who I've named are good coaches. I don't know about Mark Stoops. I don't know if he's a good coach. I actually like Mark Stoops. I liked him when he was at Florida State. I just don't think he's as good as everybody says he is, right? So I'm not going to beat up Mark Stoops too much. I've done that enough. I think that's what people miss the boat with this. Even when you talk about Odell Hagens, I fucking love Odell. God damn it, everybody loves Odell. He's not the person for this job. Maybe at another time. Maybe he was a person 2 years ago. All these guys would have been reasonable 2 years ago. They are not reasonable now for a reason. They shouldn't be spoken of right now for a reason. Mark Stoops says he's not a candidate. Motherfucker, you never were. Word is, he got the hint that Florida State wanted to go big game hunting. If Florida State wanted to go big game hunting, why in the fuck were they even talking to you? Matt Campbell is said to be a coach who has a great work ethic. He's really good with X's and O's. Damn near everybody I just said probably has a good fucking work ethic. Everybody who I probably just named is good with X's and O's. So fucking what? You want to know what I don't know about Matt Campbell's ass? Can he recruit? If you are going to come to Florida State, it's two things your ass need to know how to do. Wipe your ass and recruit. And I'm really not that big of a fan of the former. You have to know how to do the latter. That's not even negotiable. Matt Campbell does not at any point come off as a great recruiter. And you can't just be a good recruiter here. Only because you're recruiting against Miami. You're recruiting against Florida. That's just in the state of Florida. Clemson comes down and routinely yanks out the best talent. Or some of the best talent, I'm sorry. Georgia comes into Florida, yanks out really good talent. Alabama comes into Florida, yanks out pretty good talent. LSU will branch their ass over here. And let me tell you something. With what LSU is doing right now, it'll be even easier for them to come in Florida, in the state of Florida, and yank out good talent. Ohio State, them motherfuckers, when they had Urban Meyer, they came down and yanked out good talent from the state of Florida. You can't be a head coach, be the CEO of a program, and just be okay at recruiting. You take your ass somewhere. Stay your ass at Ohio State. That's what the fuck you can do, Mr. Campbell. Mr. I'm going to wait till the end of the season. Mr. I'm going to tell Florida State when I'm going to interview for the job. You know what? Fuck you. We don't need you any goddamn way. If you want to come there and pick up litter and shit, if you want to come there and help clean up the fuck stadium when the game's over with, fine. You cannot come to Florida State and be a head coach. You don't fit the bill. No, who does fit the bill? Bob fucking Stoops. Yeah. Bob fucking, that's his new name, Bob fucking Stoops. His name Big Game Bob is Bob fucking Stoops. His name is Bob fucking Stoops. Because if there's one, first of all, let's be honest with ourselves. The coaching pool right now is piss poor. It is trash. The coaching pool, as it relates to where you can pull from, it's not really that impressive. So when you have a guy like Bob Stoops who's interested, and word is, he's even more interested now than he was before. You go do what you gotta do to go get him. You pull him. I'm old enough to remember Oklahoma being in shambles when he got there, and the piss poor job John Blake did. John Blake, he was in the process of running Oklahoma into the ground. Bob Stoops had John Blake's team in the national championship game a year after he got there, second year. I think they won the BCS that year. They probably did. I don't know. And he continued to recruit at a high level. He produced Heisman-winning quarterbacks from those teams. And you could tell he probably just got tired with coaching. You know, he probably needed to have his battery recharged. But at the same token, the biggest task you're going to have in Florida State is rebuilding the program. We've seen someone like a Bob Stoops rebuild the program. That's the number one fucking job. Shake hands, kiss babies, wipe your ass, rebuild this program. You can't come in here and not do all of those things. You have to know how to rebuild a program. And again, I can't state this enough. I'm not saying those guys aren't good coaches, but, and I've said this before, there are risks. There are some risks that you probably didn't think through, and there are some calculated risks. This needs to be as of a calculated risk as you could possibly imagine. It has to be defined as purely a calculated risk because Florida State doesn't have a window to fuck this up anymore. They got ahead of this by getting rid of Willie Taggart as early as they did. That's what they want us to believe, right? You don't want to be Miami, right? Forever searching for a coach. You don't want to be Nebraska. They've been looking for a goddamn coach since Tom Osborne left. You don't want to be USC looking for a legit head coach since Pete Carroll left. You don't want to be all of these schools like. You don't want even then. You don't want him to turn into Tom Herman at Texas. It's probably time for Texas to start talking about an exit strategy, or at least just in the infant stages of having a discussion about it. Because right now it looked like he ain't it, right? Florida State attempted to get ahead of that. Like, listen, we not finna have 6, 7, 8 years of bullshit. We want to compete, we want to win, and we want to do it right now. The best way to do that is to cut our ties and get someone in here who's going to exert a certain amount of excitement into the program. Somebody who's going to get... Y'all read that goddamn Renaissance letter. Y'all read that Renaissance letter. John Thrasher is basically telling you he's attempting to turn Florida State into what Georgia is. What Georgia just financially just bought in. You know what? Fuck this shit. He's attempting to turn Florida State into what LSU has done. You know what? Let's just throw money at the goddamn problem. And not just throw money at the problem, but allocate resources to some of these issues that were deemed problems prior to, right? Whether it be facilities, whether it be recruiting, whether it be staff, whatever. Some schools are entrenched in making sure that their program is top line. I ain't got no fucking problem with that. That letter is really, on paper, John Thrasher is telling you, we playing big boy football. We're not settling for this shit no more. I told y'all one of the worst things that could happen to Florida State was when Florida State won the national championship in 2013, I think that told the boosters in the administration that we can win without investing an absurd amount of money into the program. Because they didn't, right? Florida State looking for a football standalone facility. They were probably telling Jimbo at that time, we don't need that type of shit. We just won a national championship. We just beat, because at that point, you remember the SEC, the schools in SEC, a lot of those schools have a shitload of money poured into their programs. We ended that run, right? We just beat Auburn, right? We don't need to invest all this money. Well, that's a stupid way of thinking. As it relates to college quarterbacks, you had a generational talent. You had a head coach who was hell-bent on doing whatever he could do to build a winner. Everything really just came together for Florida State at that time. You don't have that now. And it's a damn shame it took all of this shit to happen for you to realize what you need to do to compete. Not just compete, but compete at the highest of high levels. I told y'all before, there are 3 programs that exceed $6 million annually for their assistants as it relates to coaching. LSU, Ohio State, and Georgia. For the 3rd time, I'm asking you, how the fuck are those programs doing? They're doing great. They're doing wonderful. Florida State is behind the 8 ball, and as it relates to this, because you're not being proactive, you're being reactive in a sense. Because we never should have been in this motherfucking position to begin with. If you were asking for the money and you actually get the money, that means the money was already there. Your ass just wasn't going out to get it. And it's easy for me to say this shit on the outside looking in, but I will tell you this. A lot of things aren't very complicated in life. We make them complicated. And I've told you this before. Money will help immensely. Rome wasn't built in a day, but it was worked on every goddamn day. They didn't take any days off. Florida State, you can't afford to take any days off. You can't afford to fuck this up. Florida State needs a head coach that is going to come in, and he doesn't have a lot of time. Let's say you don't get Bob Stoops, right? I've been on record, go get James Franklin. But think about it. Why in the fuck would James Franklin come here? Unless he knows something we don't as it relates to his job is on the line here in the next year or two. Because from what I'm told, what I've heard, they love him up there. But he fits the bill as it relates to turning the program around. Yeah, I remember Jerry Sandusky. I've told y'all this before. Y'all remember Jerry Sandusky. Y'all remember the shithole that Penn State was. He's come in and fixed all of that. He's risen Penn State back to what they were when Joe Paterno was beloved in the glory days of the Nittany Lions. But why would he come here? Florida State just fired a coach who was taxed to do the same thing he'd be taxed to do, and they only gave him 22 games to do the shit. Why in the hell would I come down here and deal with these ridiculous expectations, this spoiled-ass fan base and administration who doesn't know what the fuck they're doing? A booster team that's not on the same page with it seems like any motherfucking thing. And they are super committed to James Franklin. And then you have to overpay to get him, just for shits and giggles, you have to overpay to get his ass down because he makes over $5 million now. So if you want to play big boy football and lure him or ask him from his lavish surroundings, you have to pay him in excess of $7 million a year. He's not a $7 million a year coach. But aside from that, I ask you again, why the fuck would he come to Florida State? I think Florida State is a better job, but it's not about what's the better job. It's about comfort level and job security. He doesn't have a lot of that in Tallahassee, or he wouldn't have a lot of that. He has an abundance of that, as it seems right now at Penn State. A lot of y'all bitch and complain about he never won a big game. Truth be told, he probably shouldn't have won none of them games. When you look at him playing Ohio State is better than Penn State by a country mile every fucking year. This Ohio State team right now, they shouldn't even been in that goddamn game Saturday. It's just my opinion. We talking about just talent. They shouldn't even been in that goddamn. They got a quarterback that can't throw the goddamn football. Penn State has a quarterback who cannot throw the fucking football. And they were, in the second half, they took over that game. They played more. They seemed more engaged, more enthused. They were getting turnovers. Things were starting to go their way. And the bottom fell out because Penn State is just that much better. I would love to see a James Franklin football team that is as talented as Ohio State every year. And he's on the verge of getting there. Just needs a little bit more time. Why come down here? James don't do that. I want James to come here. I like James Franklin. It wouldn't be a smart move professionally. You want to tell me, looking at Oregon right now, that Willie don't regret bringing his ass over here? He know what he's getting himself into. Oregon looks great, with the exception of Saturday. Oregon looks great as it relates towards the future. You talk about long money? Shit, you talk about long money? I'm getting off task. I'm getting off task. I don't see a scenario. If you think about it, James may be using Florida State to get a bigger contract. Like, hey, tell them I'm interested. Because he know if his people tell Florida State he's interested, the people at Penn State are going to find out he's interested. Hey, James, you're doing a great job. We love you. Let's give you $6 million a year, $6.25 million a year. Bet. Why in the hell would I go for Florida State for another million more? I'm good here. Because he hasn't really earned an extension, right? But if they give him one, what does that tell him? They value him here. They value him. It's a whole nother word for somebody who wants you to come down here and fix up a monumental clusterfuck that is Florida State. If you run out of options, or when you do, if you do, meaning Bob Stoops tells you no again, and James Franklin turns you down, then what? I don't even want to think about that shit. I'd lose sleep right now thinking about that shit. I'd have nightmares of seeing Mike Leach in my fucking dreams if I thought about that shit. I'd have to go see a shrink. I do not want to have the conversation of if Florida State misses out on Bob Stoops, because if they do, I don't deserve this. I don't. I don't deserve this. Y'all better go get Bob Stoops. Y'all better go get Bob Stoops. And the one thing about all this shit is leverage. Bob Stoops can come in and ask for the fucking moon. Florida State send Armstrong up there and go get the motherfucker. They wouldn't have a choice. Mike Norvell can come in and ask for shit. PJ Fleck can come in and ask for nothing but another one of them goddamn coats to match one of them ties. He can't ask for a goddamn thing. Matt Campbell, you can't either. When you have somebody of his stature, because one thing I didn't agree with was when they came out and said, hey, Bob Stoops is no longer a candidate. You stupid motherfucker. Why would you do that? Because now the person you're going to call knows you're desperate, and they're going to ask for more than what they're worth. Stop fucking this up. Stop fucking this up. Do you people even think when you sit down, are you sitting down in your brain? Do you think with your fucking asshole? Stop fucking this up. Hey guys, I appreciate your time. I'm not gonna do this shit. Fuck this. I appreciate your time. Holler at me on social media at the Hot Seat 19 on Twitter, at the Hot Seat 19 on Instagram, man. Hey man, if you are serious about getting fit, getting in shape, holler at my man Rolandus Breland, man. He is a wonderful, and I mean a wonderful personal trainer. You can find him on social media. I'm going to put up his Instagram page on here, man. And listen, if I say it, I'm not just saying it for a pop. I stand by it. The brother's a big supporter of the show. And I've really gotten in tune with what he does on a daily basis, man. You can find it at Ro Breland Fitness. I'm telling you, the dude is the truth. He's the truth and a half, man. So if you if you're interested in getting out there and getting fit, that's the cat you need to go talk to. But again, man, I appreciate your time. That's all the time I got. That's all the time I'm going to give you. You officially off the hot seat. Y'all be good.